was a day like any other, but something in the air had changed. The protagonist, an ordinary person with big dreams, stood in his room, looking in the mirror. He had spent too much time letting life take him along without taking control. But today was different. Today, he had decided it was time for a radical change. Something inside him told him this was the right moment. That time wouldn't wait any longer. The dream of success, of achieving what he had always wanted, pushed him forward. But at the same time, he felt the weight of doubt and uncertainty. Could he really do it? He knew the road wouldn't be easy, but something in his heart told him he had to try. This moment, this decision, couldn't wait any longer. He faced the reality that time passes quickly and opportunities don't always come back. The excitement of taking the first step overwhelmed him, but so did the feeling of scarcity, as if this were his last chance to change. As he looked at himself in the mirror, he made a promise to himself. The challenge begins today, and I will succeed. With that decision, the protagonist took his first step into the unknown, not yet knowing everything he would have to face. The protagonist stood at the threshold of the challenge he had decided to take. The first step had been made, but with it came a tide of doubts. Can you really do this? He asked himself as he walked toward what seemed impossible. The inner voices began to scream, "You don't have what it takes. You're not good enough." The thought of quitting surged strongly, and for a moment, everything seemed like a distant dream. Every time he faced something new, insecurity attacked him more fiercely. Past experiences, the times he had failed, began to replay in his mind. What made him think this time would be different? Frustration filled him, and for an instant, he thought maybe he shouldn't continue. However, deep inside, a small spark of affirmation kept him firm. Yes, you can, you must keep going. It was a constant battle between doubt and willpower. Although the voices of fear surrounded him, he could also hear another voice, a softer, firmer voice telling him that difficulties were part of the process. It was hard, but not impossible. He had to keep going, despite the doubts. The moment had arrived. The protagonist was ready to make his first big attempt toward the goal he so desperately desired. He had studied, he had prepared, but when facing reality, things didn't go as expected. The first attempt was a complete failure. Despite his effort, the results were not what he had hoped for, and disappointment hit him hard. Frustration quickly set in, like a torrent that drowned his hope. What am I doing wrong? He wondered as he looked at the mess he had created. The hours of work seemed to have been for nothing, and the progress was almost non-existent. The feeling of desperation took hold of him. Maybe I'm just not capable of doing this, he thought. The fear of failure paralyzed him, but at the same time, something inside him didn't want to give up. He knew this was just the beginning of a long journey filled with obstacles. Although the reality check had been tough, it was also a reminder that success doesn't come without effort. This isn't failure, it's just one more step, he told himself, even though the words felt empty in his mind. However, at that very moment, he made a decision. He wouldn't give up. He would get back up and try again, because only those who persist can reach their dreams. The protagonist had reached his lowest point. The feeling of defeat completely enveloped him, as if life had dealt a direct blow to his confidence. He had tried over and over again, but the results remained insufficient. Despite his efforts, the progress seemed minimal, almost invisible. The idea of giving up became more and more appealing. Is it really worth it? He asked himself as he walked silently around his house, his head full of dark thoughts. Frustration consumed him, and the comfort of resignation seemed like the easiest option. What was the point of moving forward if everything he had tried had failed? The confusion was even greater than the desire to continue. The fear of rejection, failure, and the discomfort of keeping on fighting paralyzed him. But at the same time, he knew that if he gave up now, everything he had done so far would have been in vain. With each step, his mind wrestled between giving up and continuing to fight. The comfort of defeat seemed like a tempting option, but something inside urged him to go on. Maybe, just maybe, if I keep going a little longer, something will change, he thought. The internal battle was strong, but there was still a small spark of hope. Exhausted but with newfound clarity, the protagonist paused for a moment to reflect on everything he had experienced. He had gone through so many difficulties that, at the time, seemed like insurmountable obstacles. But now, looking back, he understood something fundamental. Failure was not an end, but an opportunity to learn. Instead of giving up, he decided to take those lessons and use them as springboards toward success. It's not the failure that defines you, but what you do after it, he thought as he smiled slightly, recognizing that each setback had made him stronger in ways he never imagined. This positive shift not only made him wiser, but also stronger, more capable of facing any challenge that came his way in the future. Realizing how far he had come, he felt motivated to continue, not because everything was easy, but because he had learned to rise every time he fell. And then looking into the camera with the confidence of someone who has overcome great challenges, he said, "Remember, there is no failure, only learning. Every step, even the painful ones, brings you closer to the best version of yourself." If you're feeling inspired by this story, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next steps of this incredible transformation. And share this video with someone who also needs a reminder that failure is just part of the journey. Let's continue with the video. The protagonist began to experience a significant shift in his approach. After much effort and reflection, he discovered something that would completely change his trajectory. He realized that success didn't only depend on constant action, but also on the mindset with which he faced each day. He delved into the world of powerful affirmations and began to integrate daily practices that helped improve his way of thinking. He started each morning with words of motivation, repeating affirmations that connected him to his goal. "I am capable of achieving my dreams. Every challenge makes me stronger. Success is on my way." At first, the words seemed simple, but over time, something began to change inside him. He started to see opportunities instead of obstacles, to feel energized by the challenges rather than by fear. He also developed a morning routine that prepared him to face the day with enthusiasm and confidence. The affirmations, along with his efforts, began to yield results. Each day that passed, he felt stronger, more confident in himself. The lesson was clear. Words have power, and the energy with which you start your day can change everything. He began to feel different, as if he was finally aligned with his purpose. The constant effort began to bear fruit, and the protagonist's transformation was evident. Although at first there were no immediate results, now, with each passing day, the change could be felt. He had improved not only in what he did but also in his way of thinking. His focus had completely shifted. Before, fear and doubt held him back, but now, his confidence was soaring. He realized he had developed new skills, and most importantly, he had learned to handle failures differently. Instead of seeing them as an end, failures had become stepping stones to success. His positive attitude was reflected in every action. Where he had once felt overwhelmed by obstacles, he now faced them with determination. Slowly, his life began to align with his purpose. That feeling of being trapped faded, and in its place emerged a stronger, more capable version of himself, filled with hope. The journey wasn't easy, but the satisfaction of seeing something great born from his effort was worth it. The accomplishments, though small at first, began to accumulate. The protagonist no longer viewed his future with fear, but with excitement for what was to come. He had left his old version behind and embraced a new reality full of possibilities. The moment of truth had arrived. Everything the protagonist had worked for over the months now concentrated into a single opportunity, the big presentation. The nerves were intense. He had been preparing for this moment, but still, anxiety was palpable. His mind was filled with thoughts like, what if I fail? Or what if I'm not good enough? His hands trembled as he reviewed his notes, and the pressure to demonstrate everything he had learned overwhelmed him. Despite his achievements and progress, this challenge seemed to be the greatest of all. He was about to present his work in front of important people, and the fear of judgment, failure, and rejection was real. His thoughts haunted him. Am I really capable of doing this? Though his mind was filled with doubt, there was something inside him that kept him grounded. It was the conviction that he had come this far for a reason, that everything he had learned and experienced had prepared him for this moment. As he approached the stage, or the place where he would present, his nerves grew, but so did his determination. He knew this was his opportunity, the moment that would define his future. The suspense was palpable, but the protagonist also knew there was no turning back. It was time to show what he was capable of achieving. The protagonist had overcome the greatest challenge of his life. The moment he finished his presentation, silence filled the room. His heart raced as he waited for the reaction. Time seemed to stand still. What felt like an eternity passed with not a single sound, not a single word. Anxiety took hold of him, but then, something incredible happened. A smile began to form on the faces of the people present. The listeners' eyes lit up, and a slow clap began to resonate, eventually turning into a standing ovation. The protagonist felt a wave of relief and satisfaction. The challenge that had cost him so much seemed to dissolve in that moment. His achievement was not only recognized by others, but also deeply felt within him. This moment of revelation was the confirmation that all the effort, the hours spent, and the sacrifices had been worth it. The reaction of others filled him with pride, but also humility. It was a testament that, even though the road had been full of uncertainty, his dedication and perseverance had brought him to this point. At that moment, the protagonist understood that true success wasn't just in tangible results, but in the personal growth and transformation he had experienced along the way. It was a moment of triumph, not only for him, but also for all the people who had supported him. After everything that had happened, the protagonist took a moment to reflect. The journey had been long, filled with ups and downs, challenges, and moments when he almost gave up. But looking back, he began to see clearly what he had truly learned. He understood that success was not a destination, but a continuous process, one that required perseverance, patience, and self-compassion. He learned that failures were not defeats, but opportunities to grow and improve. Every stumble had been an invaluable lesson that brought him closer to his goal. He realized that the key to overcoming any challenge was the attitude with which he faced it. Resilience, staying calm in the midst of the storm, had been his greatest tool. He was grateful for every moment of uncertainty, as it allowed him to discover strengths he never imagined he had. Now, with a new perspective, he understood that true victory lay in his personal transformation, in the person he had become. Recognition of his achievements was gratifying, but the real value lay in the journey itself. He was grateful for the people who supported him, and for the lessons life had offered him. In the end, what he had learned was more valuable than any trophy or recognition. The knowledge that you can always start over, and that true success is never giving up. The protagonist, now wiser and stronger than ever, looked directly into the camera and shared a message of hope with everyone listening. "If I could do it, you can too," he said with determination. He knew that many people were in the same situation he had been in at one point, doubting themselves, afraid, and feeling like they weren't good enough. But with a smile on his face, he reminded everyone that the only difference between those who achieve their dreams and those who give up is perseverance. "The road isn't easy, it's never easy," he continued, "but every step, no matter how small, brings you closer to the person you want to be. I was where you are, but I decided to keep going. And what kept me going was a simple decision, not to give up." With that message, the protagonist was not only inspiring others, but also offering them a light of hope in moments of darkness. He reminded them that success isn't measured by how quickly you reach your goals, but by the determination and strength you have to keep moving forward despite adversity. "You have everything you need to make it happen. You just need to believe in yourself," he concluded. That message stayed engraved in the hearts of all who heard it, a call to action to take control of their lives. The story was coming to an end, but the protagonist had one last invitation for all those who followed him. "If my story has touched you, I want you to know that this is not the end, but the beginning of something much bigger," he said with enthusiasm. "If it has inspired you, if you now feel motivated to keep moving forward, I invite you to share this message with someone else. Because sometimes a word of encouragement can change the course of a life. Make that change happen. Share this video, subscribe, and be part of this community of people who never give up, who keep fighting for their dreams." The protagonist was not only inviting people to take action, but also to join a collective mission. A mission to join those who, just like him, were willing to do what it takes to achieve what they set out to do. "We need each other," he stated with a smile. "Motivation is contagious, and you can be the spark that lights the flame in someone else's life. So don't hesitate, take the next step, join this community, and start changing your life today." With a strong call to action, the protagonist made it clear that the real power lay in sharing knowledge and passion. This was not the end, but a new beginning for all. The community was growing, and with it, the opportunity to transform the world, one step at a time.